He didn't want to be tied to the heavenly Tao. He needed to support a sage to monopolize the heavenly's Providence Tao and control it for him. Having another idea, Hanju asked, "Can I use the primordial heavenly prison to enslave a heavenly Tao sage and control the heavenly Tao? 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue. You can enslave a heavenly Tao sage, but you can't control the heavenly Tao because of this. The heavenly Tao will automatically sever the sage's providence." Hanju wasn't surprised. The heavenly Tao was a rule, after all. No matter how strong the system was, could it be stronger than the Great Tao? Even the Great Tao couldn't directly devour the heavenly Tao. Moreover, enslaving a heavenly Tao sage would definitely offend an even higher existence. From what Hanju knew so far, the heavenly Tao had already had more than 10 immeasurable calamities. During these immeasurable calamities, many mighty figures had risen. The sages had also been changed. Those transcendent Tao experts had left the heavenly Tao and moved to the deity realm of the ruins of End. If Jade Bodhi could sense the heavenly Tao situation, so could the other transcendent Tao experts. To put it bluntly, these sages were puppets planted by the great Tao sages in the heavenly Tao. Hanju wanted to control the heavenly Tao in the dark. This was foolproof. Outside the Suisun RD heaven, Sage Tao Field, Chao Shilai sat on the golden lotus. His expression changed as wisps of strange and ancient gray chi wrapped around his body. He suddenly opened his eyes and shouted angrily. The surrounding gray aura vanished. A black shadow appeared in front of him. Chao Shilai stared at him and said in a low voice, "What do you want?" The black shadow said, "The heavenly Tao is weak. This is your opportunity. I want to ask you, what do you want?" Chao Shilai was silent. The black shadow continued, "Li Muyi's Kiliocosm world is about to be devoured by the Dark Sage King. His next target is the heavenly Tao. If you unite the heavenly Tao, you can better welcome the Dark Sage King's attack." Who is the Dark Sage King? The karma evil spirit born in the Dark Forbidden Zone. He wants to devour the big and small heavenly Tao and transcend the great Tao to resist the ancient order. Why aren't you attacking? How can we attack with the Realm Lord around? The heavenly Tao and the great Tao cannot interfere with each other. This is an iron rule that cannot be violated. Chao Shilai fell silent. The black shadow vanished into thin air after saying, "You have to unite the heavenly Tao before the next calamity. Otherwise, your sage position will go to someone else." Chao Shilai's eyes flickered with dissatisfaction. 50 years later. Visit NOV CM for the L-test updates. Hanju opened his eyes and checked his emails. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Han Yu was attacked by a cultivator from the loose heaven realm, X842. Your disciple, Ji Xianshen, was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your grand disciple Fang Liang encountered an inauspicious evil that entered his soul. Your good friend Huang Zuntian has entered the Sage Tao field. Your good friend, the Heavenly Emperor, has transformed into the evil Heavenly Emperor because he devoured the inauspicious evil. Your good friend Jiang Dugu has entered the deity realm of the ruins of End. Your good friend Empress Huta received a dream from a mysterious mighty figure. Her cultivation has increased greatly. Hanju frowned. The Heavenly Emperor had transformed into the evil Heavenly Emperor? Before leaving the immortal world, the Heavenly Emperor had been plotted against by Jade Emperor Zhou Yan. The inferior strange deity had possessed his body. At that time, Hanju had not completely purified it and was helpless. Hanju pulled out his interpersonal relationships and checked the Heavenly Emperor's portrait. The Heavenly Emperor's name had already become the evil Heavenly Emperor. His face looked very sinister. He had white hair and sharp eyebrows. His eyes had turned into dual pupils, and there was a vertical pattern between his eyebrows that looked like a closed eye. Most importantly, the evil Heavenly Emperor's cultivation had already reached the late-stage pseudo-sage. This cultivation speed was so fast. Hanju hesitated for a moment and decided to visit the Heavenly Emperor in his dreams. The Heavenly Emperor couldn't resist the dark nightmare at all. The dream was a small forest near the Jade Pure Sacred Sect more than 40,000 years ago. It was also a place of remembrance for Hanju and the Heavenly Emperor. He saw that things had changed as he saw the Heavenly Emperor again. The Heavenly Emperor wore a dragon-patterned black robe and a dragon horn with a jade-purple golden crown. 3 fan-shaped sword shadows floated behind him. Seeing Hanju, the Heavenly Emperor was stunned. The two of them stared at each other silently. Several breaths later, the Heavenly Emperor sighed. "You're stronger than I expected. You've already attained the Tao?" Hanju said, "I'm not a Heavenly Tao sage yet." "How have you been, Your Majesty?" The Heavenly Emperor smiled. "Not bad. I've never felt so free." "Hanju, if you can't stay in the immortal world, you can come to the deity realm of the ruins of End to seek refuge with me. I've established a new heavenly court." How is the deity realm of the ruins of End compared to the immortal world? It's even more dangerous and desolate, but it's also filled with opportunities. Hanju was stunned. Desolate? He had always thought that the deity realm of the ruins of End was more prosperous than the immortal world and was equivalent to a high-level immortal world. But from the Heavenly Emperor's words, that was not the case. The Heavenly Emperor sighed. The deity realm of the ruins of End was born before the immortal world. It was the number 1 world of the Heavenly Tao. It was once shattered by the Battle of the Sages. In order to prevent such a situation from happening again, the Tao ancestor pieced together the fragments of the deity realm of the ruins of End into the immortal world. The deity realm of the ruins of End itself is filled with karma, grudges, and negative karma. It has long been abandoned. Now, it is regarded as the path to the ancient desolate. There are too many mighty figures fighting and dying on this path. The opportunities left behind are immeasurable. Hanju couldn't help but think of the sage war in the investiture of the gods. Could it be that the birth of the immortal world was related to this? He asked, "Where's the ancient desolate?" The Heavenly Emperor shook his head. "Ancient desolate, that is a mysterious place. Even if someone comes out alive, they won't tell the truth." "I'm not sure, either." Hanju was deep in thought. The Heavenly Emperor stared at him with a burning gaze. "Hanju, come. Join me and I will confer you the title of Heavenly Emperor. In the Heavenly Court, you will be second only to 1 person and above 10,000. We will join forces and conquer the Dark Forbidden Zone. We will sweep through the great worlds and create an unprecedented great undertaking." Hanju remained silent. For some reason, he felt that the Heavenly Emperor had changed. Apart from ambition, he also became more invasive. "What about the immortal world? What plan do you have for the immortal world now?" Hanju asked. The Heavenly Emperor said proudly, "I'll return sooner or later. All the sages will pay the price. I'll sweep through the immortal world. Anyone who doesn't obey will be destroyed." Hanju said, "I'll consider it." The two of them continued to chat for a while. After the dream ended, Hanju opened his eyes and frowned. The Heavenly Emperor had really turned dark. Apart from strength, he was a standard villain now. Of course, from the Heavenly Emperor's point of view, his change was understandable. The Heavenly Emperor can even make a name for himself in the deity realm of the ruins of End. Perhaps it's not as terrifying as I imagined, but there must be someone stronger than me. Hanju thought silently and continued cultivating. 500 years later, the Heavenly Tao changed. "I am Heavenly Venerate Wufa, the new sage of the Heavenly Tao. I controlled the order of slaughter in the Heavenly Tao and created the Wufa sect." A domineering voice resounded throughout the Heavenly Tao. "Heavenly Venerate Wufa?" Hanju immediately checked his emails. As expected, he saw an email. "The providence of your enemy, Sage Jinan, was severed by the sages and he died." Sage Jinan's portrait had already disappeared. How ruthless. Hanju thought silently, I want to know information about Heavenly Venerate Wufa. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Heavenly Venerate Wufa, perfected Heavenly Tao Sage, immeasurable Emperor, disciple of the Tao Ancestor. Perfected Heavenly Tao Sage. This was quite something. Heavenly Venerate Wufa has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 3 stars. Hanju showed a frown. Hatred towards him the moment he arrived? He had ill intentions. Hanju hesitated to curse Heavenly Venerate Wufa. On the other side, a vast palace appeared outside the 33rd heaven. It was extremely majestic, and the 7-colored light rose to 1,000,000 feet tall. From afar, the palace looked like an ancient dragon. Chou-Shi-Lai, Fuxishan, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Emperor Shao, and Empress Hutu appeared. They looked at the new palace with complicated expressions. A plaque stood above the palace gate. Words were carved on it. Wufa Palace. From today onwards, I will lead you to strengthen the Heavenly Tao. There will be no Heavenly Devil tribulation. What you have to do is listen to my arrangements. Heavenly Venerate Wufa's voice floated out, his tone irrefutable. The sage's expressions turned ugly. Too arrogant. This was the first time he had come here. The Wufa Palace didn't even open the door. It was rude. The sages could only retreat and come to Chou-Shi-Lai's Tao field. Heavenly Venerate Wufa is a disciple of the Tao Ancestor. His cultivation is unfathomable. We're probably not his match. Furthermore, he has the backing of a great Tao sage, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said with an ugly expression. Emperor Shao frowned. Don't the 3 schools of the Tao sect also have great Tao sages? Sect Master Tianju sighed. To be honest, we've already lost contact. Otherwise, we wouldn't have relied on Ancestor Shitian. Emperor Shao and Empress Hutu frowned even more. Chou-Shi-Lai took a deep breath and said, an external force has begun to infiltrate the Heavenly Tao. We have to join forces. Not long ago, a great Tao sage also threatened me. As for who it is, I can't say for the time being, lest I attract trouble. The sage's expressions changed. Emperor Shao said, there's a need to tell Hanju about this. It's already impossible to rely on us. We have to rely on his strength. The other sages nodded in agreement. After experiencing the Heavenly Devil calamity, they all acknowledged Hanju. No matter how the Heavenly Tao fought, they had to be united against the outside world. 40 years later, Emperor Shao came to visit him. Hanju moved him into the Taoist temple. Not only did he give Emperor Shao face, but he also didn't give Emperor Shao a chance to observe the 100-peak Immortal River. Emperor Shao directly stated his intention. He explained the matter of Heavenly Venerate Wufa. Hanju said, I understand. I'll consider this matter. Before that, the sages can wait and see. Even if the Heavenly Tao changes owners, it won't change in a short period of time. We have to understand our opponents first before making plans. As for me, I'm definitely more inclined towards you. He must be joking. Heavenly Venerate Wufa had developed hatred towards him as soon as he arrived. He was already an enemy. Hanju would definitely think of a way to kill him, but he couldn't do it openly. Emperor Shao smiled. That's enough. I'll tell the other sages. The 2 of them exchanged a few more pleasantries before Hanju sent him out. After Emperor Shao left, Hanju began to think about how to deal with Heavenly Venerate Wufa. Knowing one's enemy was the key to victory. I want to know if Heavenly Venerate Wufa can kill me? Hanju asked in his mind. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. There's a certain possibility. It was possible. Hanju stood up and activated all the supreme treasures in his body. He directly jumped to the 33rd heaven and quickly sensed the Heavenly Venerate Wufa's palace. He jumped in front of the palace and immediately copied the cultivation of Heavenly Venerate Wufa before jumping away. Almost instantly, Hanju felt a terrifying killing intent lock onto him. Where are you escaping to? Heavenly Venerate Wufa's voice sounded. Time seemed to have stopped. Hanju felt a terrifying palm strike land on his body, but it was cancelled out by his supreme treasure. Hanju jumped back into the 100-peak immortal river. Heavenly Venerate Wufa revealed himself and frowned. He wore a black Taoist robe and had a burly figure. His hair was very short, and his face was imprinted with golden Tao patterns that were difficult to understand. He emitted an ancient aura. He looked at his right palm and muttered, "What a powerful Dharma treasure. How can he have it? Could it be that he has other backgrounds?" On the other side, in the Taoist temple, Hanju sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. Heavenly Venerate Wufa's hatred towards you has increased. Current hatred points, 4.5 stars. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't feel anything after being slapped by Heavenly Venerate Wufa. The strongest treasure in his body could withstand a blow from a freedom sage. Heavenly Venerate Wufa was only a heavenly Tao sage. How could he hurt him? Hanju began the simulation trial and challenged Heavenly Venerate Wufa. An hour later, Hanju opened his eyes. He frowned slightly. In the first battle, he mainly probed Heavenly Venerable Wufa's ability. Heavenly Venerate Wufa was actually stronger than Li Mui. Although he was also a heavenly Tao sage, the mystical power he grasped already had the concept of a great Tao mystical power. Hanju won, but not happily. He continued to challenge. 10 minutes later, Hanju successfully killed Heavenly Venerate Wufa. Not enough! Once the battle dragged on, the enemy would easily escape. Hanju started the simulation trial again and again. After more than 100 times, the battle time decreased to a minute. 1,000 times later, Hanju finally found a way to insta-kill Heavenly Venerate Wufa. He couldn't help but sigh. Read latest OVLS at NVEL by Calm. He opened his eyes and smiled confidently. That's it? Hanju began to look down on Heavenly Venerate Wufa. Of course, he could only look down on him behind his back. If they really fought, he would definitely show weakness first and seize the opportunity when Heavenly Venerate Wufa relaxed. How could a battle of life and death be so fair? Hanju only believed in dead enemies. He looked up at the 13th heaven. Li Daokong and 1,000 nether zeniths were temporarily staying in the heavenly race. All these years, Hanju would look up while cultivating. Ji Xianshan had used the power of the hidden sect to begin purging the heavenly race. Many immortals were expelled. I am Heavenly Venerate Wufa. I cannot preach the Tao in the 33rd heaven. All living beings in the heavenly Tao only need to call me by my name. They can come to the Wufa Palace to listen to the Tao and become disciples of the Wufa sect. Heavenly Venerate Wufa's voice suddenly sounded. Hanju raised his eyebrows. This fellow was something. In the past, when sages preached the Tao, they needed the listeners to head to the 33rd heaven themselves. This process was enough to screen out living beings with insufficient cultivation levels. Heavenly Venerate Wufa was different. As long as they uttered his sage name, they would be moved into the Wufa Palace. Unknowingly, he would obtain the favor of all living beings. In just a few breaths of time, Hanju saw thousands of living beings being moved to the 33rd heaven. After a period of time, the disciples of the Wufa sect reached an extremely terrifying level. Not believing it, Hanju thought to himself, "You have the guts to move all the living beings in the immortal world to your Tao field?" In front of the palace, living beings appeared one after another. Most of them had pleasantly surprised expressions before stepping into the door that shone with strong light. It was endless. An endless stream. The space inside the Wufa Palace seemed to be limitless and could contain all living beings in the immortal world. Han Tuo suddenly appeared in front of the Wufa Palace. He looked up, his eyes filled with excitement, anticipation, and a trace of nervousness. "Brother Han Tuo, you're here too." A familiar voice sounded. Han Tuo turned around and said in surprise, "Brother Jieyu, you're here too." Jieyu squeezed through the crowd and walked in front of Han Tuo. The two of them were very happy to see each other again. After chatting for a while, they stepped into the Wufa Palace. Such a scene repeated in front of the Wufa Palace. Because they had come to listen to the Tao, many cultivators had reunited. Of course, enemies also saw each other and were extremely jealous. However, they didn't dare to act rashly in front of the sage Tao field. On the other side, the sages gathered in Choshilai's Tao field. This fellow is too impudent. What does he want? He directly took in all the living beings of the heavenly Tao as his disciples. Does he want to control the heavenly Tao alone? The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said angrily, trembling in anger. Sect Master Tianju's eyes flickered with a cold light. It's indeed too much. He doesn't care about us at all. Choshilai was also furious. How long had it been since Heavenly Venerate Wufa came? Emperor Shao was also furious. He began to think of a countermeasure. At this moment, "Everyone, why is there another sage in the heavenly Tao?" A voice sounded and Li Modi appeared in the hall. Seeing him appear, the sage's expressions instantly darkened. Li Modi looked a little tired. Noticing that the atmosphere was not right, he asked, "Could it be that you didn't support him?" The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said in a strange tone, "Hey, isn't this the sage of the human school? Your Kiliacosm world's calamity has been resolved?" Li Modi frowned. "No, I'm prepared to abandon the Kiliacosm world. Tell me about that new sage first. Why are there so many living beings heading to his Tao field?" The sages looked at each other. In the end, Sect Master Tianju told him the reason. Li Modi was furious when he heard that. "Ridiculous. I'll personally find Heavenly Venerate Wufa." The sages did not stop him and watched him leave. In the Taoist temple of the 100-peak Immortal River, Hanju, who was cultivating, sensed something and suddenly looked up. His gaze pierced through the 33rd heaven. He saw that Li Mui and Heavenly Venerate Wufa were fighting. Their mystical powers and dermic powers were boundless. It shook the chaotic chi of the 33 heavens until it surged violently. The living beings in front of the palace no longer increased. From the looks of the battle, Li Mui was being suppressed by Heavenly Venerate Wufa. Interesting. Hanju thought for a moment and took out the Book of Misfortune. He started to curse Heavenly Venerate Wufa. At the very least, he had to make him unable to cultivate in peace. It was very difficult to determine a winner in a battle between sages unless one grasped the power of the great Tao like Hanju. 5 days later, Hanju started to curse with his lifespan. He tried his best, his lifespan decreasing rapidly. In the midst of the fighting, Heavenly Venerate Wufa's expression changed drastically. He waved his sleeve, and countless blue ice crystals shot in all directions. They tore through space along the way, preventing Li Mui from approaching. Curse power. What mystical power are you using? Heavenly Venerate Wufa asked in a low voice. The previous curse did not hurt, but the power of the curse had suddenly strengthened. He guessed that Li Mui had used some mystical power. Li Mui ignored his question and continued fighting. He was also furious. He didn't want to lose face in front of the other Heavenly Tao sages. At the same time, the expressions of the other sages who were watching the battle became subtle. They communicated with their divine sense. Indeed, it's him. We didn't curse Heavenly Venerate Wufa. That can only be Li Mui. Could it be Hanju? There's no need for Hanju to do that. How strong was that? Hanju couldn't even imagine. After reaching the primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm, he couldn't even imagine what the origin of the great Tao sage was, let alone a higher existence. No matter what, if Heavenly Venerate Wufa's backing was locked in the ancient desolate, Hanju didn't have to be afraid. His gaze landed on the Wufa palace again. After the battle with Li Mui ended, Heavenly Venerate Wufa continued to recruit disciples and prepared to preach the Tao. Hanju deduced that his son was also in the Tao field. Forget it. He would let Heavenly Venerate Wufa preach the Tao first and tidy up after. It was a good opportunity for the living beings of the Heavenly Tao to become stronger. They could be more at ease when facing the Heavenly Devil tribulation in the future. About 10 years passed. The Wufa Palace closed and the Heavenly Venerate began to preach. Hanju silently calculated. More than 10 billion living beings had entered the palace. Heavenly Venerate Wufa was indeed generous. After the lecture, he directly obtained 10 billion disciples. Among these disciples, he could choose some with top potential. What a pity! Heavenly Venerable Wufa, you won't be able to laugh until the end. How long you can live depends on how long you can preach. Hanju secretly mocked. Year after year passed. In the blink of an eye, 100 years passed. Inside Wufa Palace. This place was like a world. The ground was like water and the sky was white. Countless living beings sat on the water surface. After 100 years of preaching, most of the living beings had already transformed. Han Tuo and Jieyu were the closest. Jieyu opened his eyes and looked at him. He asked with a smile, "How are your gains?" Han Tuo smiled. "Not bad. What about you?" It was not just not bad. Surprise! He actually easily understood the great Tao that Heavenly Venerate Wufa taught. Other than the increase in his cultivation, many thoughts also appeared in his mind, making him very excited. Jieyu smiled. "It's alright, but I feel inferior to you. You always surprise me." Han Tuo smiled and did not reply. Although the two of them had a good relationship, they had their own secrets and never interfered with each other. This was also the reason why they got along well. At this moment, Heavenly Venerate Wufa's voice sounded. "The first lecture is over. From now on, all of you are disciples of the Wufa sect. No matter what sect you came from, you must abandon it. I will lead you to prosperity. I am the strongest sage." His tone was extremely firm and confident. These words made most living beings worship him. Only a few disciples from other sects were very uncomfortable, but they did not dare to stand out and offend Heavenly Venerate Wufa. The Heavenly Devil calamity has just ended. All of you should be able to sense that the previous sages are too weak, causing the Heavenly Devils to be rampant for so long. If I lead the Heavenly Tao, such a tragic scene will definitely not appear. Believe in me and follow me. This will be the greatest opportunity in your lives. My ambitions are to unite the myriad worlds in the universe and control the Heavenly Tao alone. I will lead all living beings in the Heavenly Tao to surpass the Great Tao in the past. I will stand at the end of the river of destiny and look down on everything." The more Heavenly Venerate Wufa spoke, the more arrogant he became. Han Tuo frowned slightly. For some reason, he instinctively resisted Heavenly Venerate Wufa. So what if he's a sage? The thought shocked him. Logically speaking, after hearing the lecture, he should worship and revere Heavenly Venerate Wufa. However, seeing that the other party was so arrogant, he was inexplicably unhappy. Jieyu's voice floated over, "Don't resist him. He's testing us." He used a voice transmission. "Test?" Han Tuo was shocked and hurriedly extinguished the flames of disdain in his heart. At the same time, he became wary of Jieyu. This kid was not simple. He could even see through the methods of a sage? Thinking about it carefully, he had never seen Jieyu in a sorry state. No matter how strong the enemy was, he was always calm. Jieyu sensed Han Tuo's gaze and smiled. His eyes narrowed into two crescent moons. Heavenly Venerate Wufa was still speaking. At the same time, Hanju had already arrived in front of Wufa Palace. He didn't barge in immediately but stood in front of the door and waited. His supreme treasure had already been activated, and the divine light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection covered his figure. "Hanju, what do you want to do?" Qiu Shilai's voice entered his ears. Not only Qiu Shilai, but the other sages also asked with voice transmissions. Hanju didn't answer. The reason why he did not immediately attack was that he was afraid of injuring the listeners. The reason why he came was that he was worried that Heavenly Venerate Wufa would use some tricks on them. Heavenly Venerate Wufa sensed Hanju's appearance and ended his speech, asking the 10 billion disciples to leave. Boom! The door to the palace opened and a pillar of light rose. The array formation outside the door can send you back. Cultivate well and wait for my next lecture. Heavenly Venerate Wufa's voice sounded. Hanju could also hear it. Disciples walked out of the palace one after another. Seeing him, they were all stunned, but no one dared to approach. Hanju's aura was very strong, making them fearful. One disciple after another stepped into the pillar of light, forming a long dragon that connected the interior of the palace to the pillar of light. Heavenly Venerate Wufa did not come out directly. He was probably waiting for the listeners to leave. On the other side, the sages gathered in Choshilei's palace. The south extreme Heavenly Venerate asked excitedly, Hanju is going to fight with Heavenly Venerate Wufa? Sect Master Tianju sighed. Probably. He won't take the initiative to visit for no reason. Once he appears, he will definitely attack. Emperor Shao smiled. Hanju's actions impressed me. This is a true cultivator. Unlike Li Moyi, who only knows how to curse behind his back. Fuxishan also came, but Li Moyi did not. Li Moyi was rejected by them. Even the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate and Sect Master Tianju did not interact with him. I even suspected that Hanju is the Dark Forbidden Lord. I'm really ashamed. Sect Master Tianju sighed. How are Hanju's actions like the Dark Forbidden Lord? They began to look forward to what would happen next. Every disciple who left the Wufa Palace would glance at Hanju and not dare to look anymore. They thought that Hanju was a mighty figure under Heavenly Venerate Wufa. Han Tuo and Jieyu chatted as they walked out of the palace. At this moment, Han Tuo suddenly saw Hanju. This glance stunned him. For some reason, Hanju's figure made him absent-minded, and he felt inexplicably close. Who is he? Han Tuo frowned and stared at Hanju. Jieyu said, Don't look. Han Tuo jolted awake and hurriedly retracted his gaze. After that, Han Tuo didn't dare to look at Hanju anymore, afraid that he would anger this mysterious mighty figure. Check out LT, SDVL, on NOVL bin. CM however, in his heart, Hanju's figure couldn't be erased, making him curious. Who was this person? Hanju noticed that Han Tuo's cultivation had increased quite well. Not only that, but his physical bloodline actually contained a trace of Dao runes. Good kid. As expected of my son. Hanju thought silently. Most of his attention was still on Heavenly Venerate Wufa, in case he left. Han Tuo stepped into the pillar of light with the group. The moment he entered, he couldn't help but turn around. Shining with divine light, Hanju quietly stood at the side of the Wufa Palace's doors. He didn't move at all, like a god who would always stand in the river of time. He emitted a vast aura and loneliness. Heavenly Venerate Wufa didn't use the array formation to stop him. Hanju walked forward slowly, but each step covered an extremely long distance. It had the profundity of shrinking the distance. Soon, he saw Heavenly Venerate Wufa. The other party sat on a tall tower. He was high and mighty as he looked down on him. Hanju clearly felt a mysterious force surging around him. This fellow was activating the array formation, wanting to isolate the palace from the outside. Hanju stopped and took a deep breath. Heavenly Venerate Wufa, I came here to acknowledge you as my master. Hearing this, Heavenly Venerate Wufa narrowed his eyes and asked, Really? He thought that Hanju was here to find trouble. He didn't completely trust his words. Previously, Hanju had cancelled out his palm strike, which meant that he was not weak. Hanju said, I used my strength to attain the Tao and don't want to enter the Heavenly Tao calamity. It's a good thing for me if you can unite the Heavenly Tao. I can cultivate in peace and not be disturbed. Heavenly Venerate Wufa asked, Really? Yes. then kneeled down. Hanju cursed silently. This dog really knew how to take advantage of others. His legs began to curve as if he was about to kneel down. Just as he bent down, he suddenly attacked. A fiend celestial Dharma idol suddenly appeared above Hanju's head. It moved like lightning and pounced at Heavenly Venerate Wufa like a hungry tiger. Heavenly Venerate Wufa raised his palm and struck, but the fiend celestial Dharma idol was faster and quickly drowned him. Imprisonment Fiend Celestial. This was one of the fiend celestial Dharma idols that Hanju had recently comprehended. It could imprison everything in the world, even the heavenly Tao and great Tao. The most up-to-date novels are published on Velj, Co. The heavenly Venerate Wufa's dharmic powers were completely useless against the imprisonment fiend celestial. His expression changed drastically. He immediately took out a white sword. At this moment, Hanju rushed in. Behind him were fiend celestial Dharma idols that gathered on the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial at the front. Hanju waved his fist, and the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial followed suit. A terrifying killing intent attacked. Heavenly Venerate Wufa's eyes widened as he waved his sword to block. Boom! The figure of the imprisonment Fiend Celestial began to expand like a balloon that was quickly injected with gas before exploding. The strong wind that stirred up wreaked havoc in the palace. The daytime sky was torn apart and the water at the bottom shattered like a mirror. From the outside, Wufa Palace shook violently. Streaks of rainbow light shot out from the palace, bright and dazzling. The sages in the Buddhist Tao field waited nervously. Although they knew that Hanju was very strong, they were not afraid of accidents. Inside Wufa Palace, the imprisonment Fiend Celestial had already dissipated. The wind circled in the hall. It was visible to the naked eye. Dense spatial cracks appeared in the white sky, making one's heart palpitate. Hanju stood on the platform, holding the Heavenly Venerate Wufa's sage soul. Heavenly Venerate Wufa was suppressed by the power of the imprisonment Fiend Celestial, Void Fiend Celestial, Hell Fiend Celestial, and many others, making it impossible for him to move. He looked at Hanju in shock and asked, "Who are you?" He had never encountered a battle like this before. "Where did those Dharma idols come from?" Hanju said calmly, "I just want to protect the heavenly Tao order left behind by the Tao ancestor." Tao ancestor? Heavenly Venerate Wufa's expression changed. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'm a heavenly Tao sage. You can't kill me. I have a mighty figure behind me. I advise you to give up." Hanju asked, "Your master is stronger than the Tao ancestor?" Heavenly Venerate Wufa was silent. Hanju retracted his hand and disappeared into the hall. He directly came to the 100-peak Immortal River's Tao field and threw Heavenly Venerate Wufa into the primordial heavenly prison. To prevent the other party from doing anything, Hanju decided not to cultivate and kept staring at him. Heavenly Venerate Wufa was suppressed. He shouted, "What? You want to imprison me? Can you imprison me for a lifetime?" Hanju ignored him. He would leave the answer to time. Outside the Silencio heaven, the sages arrived at the Wufa Palace. Li Mui also came. Li Mui frowned and said, "There's the aura of battle. Why don't I see the two of them?" No one replied. The sages began to check around. Li Mui was secretly annoyed and extremely unhappy. Ever since he returned, the sages had ostracized him. However, when he thought of how he had indeed not contributed in the heavenly devil calamity, he could understand, so he had been enduring. The sages wandered around for a while. After confirming that Hanju and Heavenly Venerate Wufa were not around, they could only give up. Several decades later, Choshilai visited Hanju in his dreams. Hanju ignored him. Choshilai didn't dare to continue. He thought that Hanju was still fighting with Heavenly Venerate Wufa and didn't dare to disturb him. Time passed. After the lecture ended, the Wufa sect grew rapidly. In less than 1,000 years, the Wufa sect's disciples appeared everywhere in the myriad worlds. The sages didn't dare to act recklessly without knowing Heavenly Venerate Wufa's life and death. In the blink of an eye, 2,000 years passed. Hanju and Heavenly Venerate Wufa had already disappeared for 2,000 years. The sages grew bold and arranged for their disciples to enter the world to target the Wufa sect. Without Heavenly Venerate Wufa's appearance, the sect had no unity and crumbled in less than 100 years. In a deep mountain, Han Tuo meditated in the cave abode and cultivated. Ever since the trip to the Wufa Palace, he had been hiding here and cultivating. His cultivation level had increased exponentially. Jieyu suddenly walked in from the entrance and said, "The Wufa sect is no more. It seems that something has happened to Heavenly Venerate Wufa." Han Tuo opened his eyes when he heard this. He couldn't help but think of the divine light figure he had seen that day. Could it be that Heavenly Venerate Wufa's disappearance was related to that person? Han Tuo teased, "Your plan to join the Wufa sect has failed. What's next?" Jieyu found a seat and sat down. He shrugged and said, "I'm preparing to leave the immortal world." "Where to?" "An unknown land. If fate allows, we'll meet again." Han Tuo was silent. He didn't have many good friends. Jieyu was his confidant. Although he couldn't see through him, he had indeed helped him a lot. The two of them had experienced life and death together. Jieyu said meaningfully, "Han Tuo, you're not simple. It's just that the path of cultivation is still long. I hope that the next time we meet, you'll already be an influential figure below the heavenly Tao." Han Tuo frowned and asked, "Must you leave?" "That's right. My mission is over." "Where are you from?" "I can't say. Let's discuss the Tao. This is also the last time." "All right." Han Tuo wasn't pretentious. He was no longer the immature youth from back then. Several years later, Jieyu left. Han Tuo also left and entered seclusion in another cave abode. Inside the Taoist temple, a line of words suddenly appeared in front of Hanju. "Primordial Heavenly Prison has successfully enslaved the target. Heavenly Venerate Wufa has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, max." Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. It took him 3,000 years to enslave Heavenly Venerate Wufa. He had not cultivated for 3,000 years. He had never wasted so much time, causing him to feel extremely tormented and uncomfortable. Hanju checked the emails and saw an interesting one. "Your good friend Heavenly Venerable Wufa was abandoned by the Heavenly Tao and lost his position as a Heavenly Tao sage.